Admiral Zektar of the Galactic Council Fleet stared at the massive holographic display showing the outer rim of the Kepler system. His four eyes tracked the movement of patrol ships as they maintained their standard formation. The bridge of his flagship, the Divine Authority, hummed with the quiet efficiency of a well-trained crew. "Admiral," called out Navigation Officer Velana, her voice carrying a note of concern. "We're detecting an unknown energy signature approaching from the void beyond the system's edge." Zektar's mandibles clicked together in annoyance. "Probably another pirate vessel trying to slip past our patrols. Have Squadron 7 investigate and prepare to engage if necessary." "Sir, the signature is unusual. It's not matching any known propulsion systems in our database." The Admiral turned his attention fully to the tactical display. In his 300 years of service, he had seen every type of ship the galaxy had to offer. The Vrex used quantum tunneling drives, the Etherians preferred plasma propulsion, and the mechanical synthoids relied on antimatter cores. Each civilization had developed their technology along predictable lines, following the same basic principles that governed faster-than-light travel. "Show me the readings," he commanded. The holographic display shifted to show detailed sensor data. What Zektar saw made his blood run cold. The energy signature was massive, far larger than any dreadnought in the Council fleet. But it wasn't just the size that troubled him. The propulsion system appeared to be something entirely new, something that shouldn't be possible according to established physics. "Contact the Council immediately," Zektar ordered. "We may have encountered a previously unknown civilization." Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars streak past through the main view screen. After 18 months of deep space exploration, her crew was finally approaching their destination, a star system that long-range probes had identified as potentially harboring intelligent life. "Captain," called out her tactical officer, "we're detecting multiple energy signatures ahead. Looks like we've got company." Chun nodded calmly. "How many vessels?" "Sensors show approximately 40 ships in various formations. They appear to be military in nature, with weapon systems powered but not locked onto us." "Interesting. Any attempts at communication?" "Not yet, ma'am. Should we try to establish contact?" Chun considered this carefully. The Defiance was humanity's first interstellar warship, equipped with technologies that Earth scientists had developed in secret over the past 50 years. Most humans still believed they were alone in the universe, unaware that their government had been preparing for this moment since the first detection of artificial signals from deep space. "Open a channel on all frequencies," she ordered. "Let's see if we can talk to our new neighbors." The transmission reached the Galactic Council fleet within minutes. Admiral Zektar listened to the strange, melodic sounds coming through the communications array. His translation software worked frantically to decode the alien language. "Admiral, we're getting a rough translation," reported Communications Officer Dexrin. "The beings are calling themselves humans, and they claim to come from a planet called Earth. They're requesting peaceful contact and permission to approach." Zektar's primary eyes narrowed. "Humans? That name doesn't appear in any of our databases. Where did they come from?" According to their transmission, they originated from a system approximately 12,000 light-years from here. "Sir, that's far beyond the explored regions of the galaxy." This news sent a ripple of unease through the bridge crew. The Galactic Council had mapped and cataloged civilizations across 30,000 light-years of space. The idea that an advanced species could have developed undetected so far from the galactic core was deeply troubling. "What's their technological assessment?" Zektar demanded. Sensor Operator Quindal's voice was barely steady. "Sir, their ship is unlike anything we've encountered. It measures approximately 3 kilometers in length, but its mass readings are inconsistent with known materials. The energy output suggests a power source that exceeds our theoretical maximums." Admiral Zektar felt his confidence wavering. The Galactic Council maintained peace through superior firepower and technological advancement. Every civilization that had been contacted in the past had proven to be either primitive or at best equal to existing Council technology. The idea that these humans might possess superior capabilities was unthinkable. "Prepare the fleet for potential combat, but maintain peaceful postures," he ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with before we make any commitments." Captain Chen studied the alien fleet through her ship's advanced sensors. The vessels appeared to be using technology similar to what Earth scientists had predicted they might encounter. Energy shields, plasma weapons, and faster-than-light drives based on space-time manipulation. What surprised her was how primitive their systems appeared compared to human technology. "Analysis, Commander Torres," she said to her science officer. "Ma'am, their ships appear to be using second-generation fusion reactors for power. Their weapons are plasma-based, probably effective against similar technology levels. Their shields appear to be electromagnetic in nature." Chen nodded thoughtfully. Humanity's technological development had taken a different path than these aliens. While they had focused on energy manipulation and plasma weapons, humans had pursued matter manipulation and exotic physics. The results spoke for themselves. Human ships were smaller, faster, and far more powerful than anything in the alien fleet. "Their transmission indicates they want to establish diplomatic contact," reported Lieutenant Morrison from Communications. "They're requesting that we power down our weapons and approach their flagship under peaceful conditions." "What's your assessment of their intentions?" Chen asked her tactical officer. "They're maintaining what appears to be a defensive formation, but their weapon systems are charging. I'd say they're nervous, but not immediately hostile." Chen made her decision. "Signal the fleet to maintain current positions. We'll approach alone and establish contact. If this goes badly, I want our ships ready to extract us." "Ma'am, that's extremely risky," protested her first officer. "We don't know their capabilities or intentions." "That's exactly why we need to take this risk," Chen replied. "Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization needs to be handled carefully. If we appear too aggressive, we could start a war. If we appear too weak, we might invite attack." The UES Defiance began its approach toward the alien flagship, its massive form cutting through space with an elegance that belied its destructive potential. Unknown to the waiting aliens, the ship's hull was composed of materials that didn't exist in nature, created through human mastery of quantum mechanics and atomic manipulation. Every system aboard the vessel represented the pinnacle of human engineering, technologies that had been developed in absolute secrecy by the brightest minds Earth had ever produced. Admiral Zektar watched the human ship approach with growing unease. His sensors were providing contradictory readings about the vessel's construction and capabilities. The ship appeared to be solid matter, but it was registering energy signatures that suggested something far more complex. "Sir," called out his chief engineer, "I'm detecting some kind of phase variance in their hull structure. It's as if the ship exists partially outside normal spacetime." "That's impossible," Zektar replied, but his voice lacked conviction. "No known technology can achieve stable phase shifting on that scale." "Nevertheless, sir, that's what our instruments are showing. If I didn't know better, I'd say their entire ship is existing in a controlled state of quantum uncertainty." The implications were staggering. If these humans had mastered quantum physics to such a degree, their technological capabilities might be centuries beyond anything the Galactic Council possessed. Zektar found himself facing a situation that no Council Admiral had ever encountered. First contact with a potentially superior civilization. "Maintain communications protocols," he ordered. "I want to know their intentions before we take any action." Captain Chen stood in the Defiance's main shuttle bay, adjusting her dress uniform one final time. She had chosen to wear Earth's military dress blues rather than any kind of environmental suit, both to project confidence and to demonstrate that humans were not afraid of potential biological threats. Her small diplomatic team consisted of her first officer, her communications specialist, and a single Marine sergeant for security. "Remember," she addressed her team, "we're representing all of humanity in this encounter. These aliens likely have technologies we've never seen, but they've also never encountered human technology. Stay calm, be respectful, but don't let them think we're weak or desperate." The shuttle that would carry them to the alien flagship was a marvel of human engineering in its own right. No larger than an ancient fighter aircraft, it contained enough firepower to destroy a small city and defensive systems that could withstand anything short of a direct nuclear blast. More importantly, it served as a mobile sensor platform that would transmit everything back to the Defiance in real time. "Launching in 30 seconds, Captain," announced the pilot. Chen took a deep breath and thought about the magnitude of what was happening. Humanity was about to announce its presence to the galaxy, and the consequences of this moment would shape the future of her species for generations to come. The shuttle emerged from the Defiance's bay and began its journey toward the alien flagship. Through the transparent aluminum viewports, Chen could see the massive vessels of the alien fleet surrounding them. Each ship was a testament to advanced engineering, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they represented an older, more conventional approach to space technology. Admiral Zektar prepared to receive the human delegation in his ship's main conference chamber. He had ordered his security teams to full alert, but had also ensured that the humans would be treated with appropriate diplomatic courtesy. The chamber itself was designed to accommodate various alien physiologies, with adjustable gravity, atmosphere, and lighting. "Sir, the human shuttle is requesting permission to dock," reported his communications officer. "Permission granted. Route them to docking bay 7 and have Ambassador Tillane meet them there." Zektar's hands trembled slightly as he gave the order. In his long career, he had overseen the integration of dozens of civilizations into the Galactic Council. But those had all been primitive species, grateful for the technology and protection the Council could provide. This situation felt entirely different. The human shuttle that docked with the Divine Authority was unlike anything in the Council's database. Its hull appeared to be seamless, without visible joints or construction seams. The materials seemed to absorb sensor scans rather than reflecting them, making detailed analysis impossible. When the airlock opened, the beings that emerged were even more surprising. Humans appeared to be bipedal mammals, similar to several other species in the galaxy. But there was something about their bearing, their confidence, that set them apart. They moved with a precision that spoke of advanced training, and their equipment, while appearing simple, registered energy signatures that defied explanation. Captain Chen stepped into the alien ship and immediately noted the differences in atmosphere and gravity. The air was thinner than Earth normal and carried unfamiliar scents, while the gravity was approximately 20% lighter. The corridor walls were made of some kind of metallic composite that seemed to glow with its own internal light. Ambassador Tillane, a tall, elegant being with flowing silver hair and large, intelligent eyes, approached the human delegation. "Welcome aboard the Divine Authority," she said through a translation device. "I am Ambassador Tillane of the Galactic Council. We are honored to make contact with your species." Chen stepped forward and offered what she hoped was an appropriate gesture of respect. "I am Captain Sarah Chun of the United Earth Ship Defiance. I bring greetings from humanity and our hope for peaceful relations between our peoples." As the two groups made their way toward the conference chamber, Chen observed everything around her with the trained eye of a military officer. The alien ship was impressive, clearly the product of an advanced civilization, but she noticed several things that suggested limitations in their technology. Their computer systems appeared to rely on optical processing rather than quantum cores, their lighting systems used plasma rather than controlled fusion, and their structural materials, while advanced, lacked the molecular precision that human engineering had achieved. The conference chamber was a magnificent space, with a domed ceiling that displayed a real-time image of the surrounding star field. Representatives from various alien species were present, each one studying the humans with intense curiosity. Admiral Zektar stood at the head of a curved table, his imposing figure radiating authority and caution. "Captain Chun," he said through his translator, "I am Admiral Zektar, commander of this fleet and representative of the Galactic Council. We are curious about your species and your intentions in this region of space." Chen took her seat at the table, noting how the aliens had positioned themselves to maintain clear sight lines to all exits. Professional paranoia, she recognized, the mark of experienced military officers. "Admiral Zektar, humanity comes in peace," she began. "We are explorers and scientists seeking to understand our place in the galaxy and to learn from other civilizations. We had no idea this region was inhabited until our sensors detected your fleet. Your ship appears to utilize technologies unknown to us," Admiral Zektar said carefully. "We would be interested in learning about your people's scientific achievements." Chen smiled diplomatically. "We would be happy to share appropriate information about human science. just as we hope to learn from the achievements of your civilization. Perhaps we could begin with basic cultural exchanges? What followed was several hours of careful diplomatic discourse. Both sides shared general information about their respective civilizations, but Chen noticed that the aliens seemed particularly interested in human technology and defensive capabilities. She answered their questions honestly, but vaguely, providing enough information to demonstrate good faith, while revealing nothing that could be considered strategically sensitive. As the meeting progressed, Chen began to understand the power dynamic at play. The Galactic Council clearly saw itself as the dominant force in this region of space, accustomed to encountering primitive civilizations that posed no threat to their authority. The idea that humanity might be their technological equal, or perhaps superior, was clearly causing them considerable anxiety. Captain Chun, Ambassador Tillane said during a break in the formal discussions, "Your ship's energy signature suggests power generation capabilities that exceed our theoretical models. How is this possible?" Chen considered her answer carefully. Human science has focused heavily on quantum mechanics and exotic matter manipulation. We've developed some unique approaches to energy generation and storage. Could you be more specific? Admiral Zektar asked, his tone betraying his growing concern. "I'm afraid I can't provide detailed technical information without authorization from my government," Chen replied diplomatically. "But I can say that human technology emphasizes efficiency and sustainability rather than raw power output." This answer seemed to increase rather than alleviate the aliens' concerns. Chen realized that they were trying to assess whether humanity posed a threat to their established order, and her vague responses were probably being interpreted as evidence of advanced capabilities that humans were deliberately concealing. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from the bridge. A junior officer approached Admiral Zektar and whispered something that caused his expression to shift dramatically. "Captain Chun," the admiral said, his voice tight with controlled tension, "we've just received word that several ships matching your vessel's energy signature have been detected entering this star system. Are you expecting reinforcements?" Chen maintained her calm exterior while her mind raced. The plan had been for the Defiance to make initial contact alone, but Earth's fleet commanders had obviously decided to provide backup. "Admiral, I believe those would be additional human vessels responding to our first contact protocols. They're here to ensure my safety, not to threaten your fleet." "How many ships?" Admiral Zektar demanded. Before Chun could respond, another officer rushed into the chamber. The brief conversation in the alien language was clearly urgent, and Chen didn't need translation to understand that something significant was happening. "Captain," Admiral Zektar said, his voice now carrying a note of barely controlled alarm, "our sensors are detecting 12 human vessels approaching this location. Each one appears to be as powerful as your ship." Chun felt a moment of pride in humanity's engineering achievements, followed immediately by concern about how this revelation would affect negotiations. "Admiral, I assure you that these ships come in peace. However, I should point out that humanity takes the safety of our diplomatic missions very seriously." The Admiral's expression suggested he was beginning to grasp the full implications of the situation. The Galactic Council fleet consisted of 40 vessels, which had seemed like overwhelming force when facing a single alien ship. But if the humans had deployed 13 ships with capabilities that exceeded anything in the Council's arsenal, the power balance had shifted dramatically. "We need to discuss this development immediately," Admiral Zektar said, gesturing for his staff to prepare for emergency consultations. Captain Chin stood as well, recognizing that the delicate first contact situation had just become significantly more complex. "Admiral, I recommend that we continue our discussions in a spirit of mutual respect and peaceful cooperation. Humanity has no hostile intentions toward your people, but we will defend ourselves if threatened." As alarms began sounding throughout the alien ship, Chen realized that humanity's first contact with galactic civilization was about to become far more dramatic than anyone had anticipated. The bridge of the UES Defiance erupted in controlled chaos as Captain Chen's shuttle returned from the alien flagship. Commander Torres immediately approached her with a tactical update. "Captain, Admiral Harrison's task force has arrived. 12 ships, including the dreadnought Washington. The aliens are scrambling their entire fleet into defensive positions." She nodded grimly as she studied the tactical display. The situation had escalated far beyond a simple first contact scenario. Give me a direct line to Admiral Harrison immediately, and prepare a full briefing on our interactions with the alien leadership. Within minutes, the weathered face of Admiral James Harrison appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of the UES Washington bustled with activity as one of humanity's most experienced military commanders assessed the developing crisis. Captain Chun, report, Harrison said without preamble. Sir, we've established contact with a military alliance called the Galactic Council. They appear to control this region of space and have significant technological capabilities, though not at our level. The initial meeting was proceeding diplomatically until your arrival triggered their defensive protocols. Are they hostile? Harrison asked. Not initially, sir, but they're clearly alarmed by our capabilities. I believe they view us as a potential threat to their established order. Harrison's expression remained stoic as he processed this information. Captain, we've been monitoring their communications. Our translation software has decoded enough of their language to understand that they're debating whether to engage us militarily. This news sent a chill through Chen's crew. While humanity's ships were technologically superior, they were heavily outnumbered. More importantly, starting a war with the first alien civilization they encountered would have catastrophic implications for future relations. Sir, I recommend we attempt to defuse the situation through continued diplomacy, Chen said. These people aren't evil, they're just scared. Scared people make dangerous decisions, Captain, Harrison replied. But I agree that we need to try talking before shooting. I'm authorizing you to return to their flagship and attempt to negotiate a peaceful resolution. Aboard the Divine Authority, Admiral Zektar faced the most difficult decision of his career. The arrival of additional human ships had transformed what seemed like a manageable first contact situation into a potential threat to the entire Galactic Council. Emergency communications from Council headquarters demanded immediate assessment of human capabilities and intentions. Sir, our analysis of the human vessels suggests technology that exceeds our own by several generations, reported his chief science officer. Their power sources alone generate more energy than our largest battle stations. What about their weapons? Zektar asked. Unknown, sir. Their ships don't mount any recognizable weapon systems. But, given their technological advancement, we have to assume they possess armaments capable of devastating our fleet. Zektar turned to Ambassador Tillane, whose diplomatic experience had guided the Council through countless first contact scenarios. Ambassador, what's your assessment of their intentions? The human captain seemed genuinely interested in peaceful relations, she replied thoughtfully. But their military response suggests they're prepared for conflict if necessary. I believe they're testing our resolve. Or they're preparing to eliminate a potential threat, suggested General Corks, the fleet's tactical commander. We should consider a preemptive strike while we still have numerical superiority against opponents whose capabilities we don't understand. Zektar shook his head. That would be suicide. The debate was interrupted by an incoming transmission from the human flagship. Captain Chen's image appeared on the main screen, her expression serious but non-threatening. Admiral Zektar, I'm requesting permission to return to your ship with additional diplomatic personnel. We need to discuss this situation before it escalates beyond our control. Zektar studied the human captain's face, trying to read her intentions. Everything about the humans suggested advanced civilization and military discipline, but also restraint and genuine desire for peaceful contact. Permission granted, Captain, he replied. But I must warn you that the Council views your fleet's arrival as a potential act of aggression. Understood, Admiral. We're prepared to address those concerns directly. 2 hours later, Captain Chun returned to the Divine Authority, this time accompanied by Admiral Harrison and a full diplomatic team. The conference chamber had been expanded to accommodate additional representatives from various Council species, all of whom studied the humans with mixtures of curiosity, fear, and calculation. Admiral Harrison cut an impressive figure even among the diverse alien species present. His bearing spoke of decades of military command, and his eyes held the steady gaze of someone accustomed to making life-or-death decisions under pressure. Admiral Zektar, Harrison began without preamble. I understand there's been some concern about human intentions. Let me be direct. Humanity comes in peace. But we're prepared to defend ourselves if attacked. Your fleet's capabilities suggest you could do far more than defend, Admiral Zektar replied carefully. Our sensors indicate technological advancement that could threaten the stability of this entire region. Harrison nodded acknowledgement. That's possible. Human technology has developed along different lines than yours, with significant advantages in certain areas. But power doesn't automatically mean aggression. Then, why bring 13 warships to a diplomatic meeting? Demanded General Quarks. Because we've learned that peace is best preserved by those strong enough to enforce it, Harrison replied calmly. We didn't know what we'd encounter in this system. For all we knew, you might have attacked our diplomatic mission. Ambassador Tillane leaned forward. Admiral Harrison, the Galactic Council has maintained peace among hundreds of civilizations for thousands of years. We don't attack peaceful visitors. And we appreciate that, Chen interjected. But humanity has had to learn caution the hard way. Our history is full of examples where peaceful intentions were met with violence. What followed was a careful exchange of information about both civilizations' histories and philosophies. The humans described Earth's turbulent past, the wars and conflicts that had ultimately led to global unification and the development of advanced technology. The Council representatives shared their own history of gradual expansion and the absorption of less advanced species into their alliance. As the discussion progressed, fundamental differences became apparent. The Council maintained order through technological superiority and the implicit threat of force. Member civilizations accepted Council authority in exchange for protection and access to advanced technology. It was a system that had worked for millennia, but only because the Council had never encountered a civilization that could challenge their supremacy. Humanity represented something entirely new, a species with technology that potentially exceeded Council capabilities, but which had achieved unity through cooperation rather than conquest. The implications were staggering for both sides. Admiral Zektar, Harrison said during a break in formal discussions, I think we need to address the real issue here. You're concerned that humanity might upset the balance of power in this region. We're concerned that you might see us as a threat to be eliminated. Both concerns are reasonable given the circumstances. What do you propose? Zektar asked. A demonstration, Harrison replied. Let us show you what human technology can do and what it's designed to defend against. Once you understand our capabilities, you'll realize that we represent an opportunity for cooperation, not a threat to be feared. General Quarks spoke up immediately. Absolutely not. We can't allow potential enemies to demonstrate superior weapons in our presence. General, Chen said calmly, we could have destroyed your entire fleet before you knew we were here if that was our intention. The fact that we're talking instead of shooting should tell you something about our character. The blunt statement sent shock waves through the alien representatives. Several species translators worked frantically to convey the implications of what had just been said. You're claiming you could have attacked without warning? Admiral Zektar asked, his voice tight with controlled anger. Not claiming, Admiral. Stating fact, Harrison replied. Human ships can approach undetected, strike with overwhelming force, and withdraw before most civilizations even know they're under attack. But we chose diplomatic contact instead. Why? Demanded Ambassador Tillane. Because we want allies, not subjects, Chen answered. Humanity learned long ago that civilizations built on fear and domination eventually collapse. We prefer partnerships based on mutual respect and shared benefit. Admiral Zektar felt his worldview shifting as he processed the implications of the human statements. If they were telling the truth about their capabilities, the entire foundation of Council authority was based on technological advantages they no longer possessed. But if they were lying, this could be an elaborate deception designed to weaken Council resolve before an attack. Prove it, he said finally. Show us these capabilities you claim to possess. Harrison and Chen exchanged glances before the Admiral nodded. Very well. But the demonstration will take place in an uninhabited system, and our ships will maintain safe distances from your fleet. Agreed, Zektar replied, though he wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. The combined fleets traveled to an abandoned star system 3 light-years away, where ancient planetary bodies orbited a dying red dwarf star. The Council fleet maintained formation at maximum sensor range while the human ships approached their demonstration targets. Admiral Zektar watched through his ship's most powerful telescopes as the human vessels prepared their display. What he saw challenged everything he thought he knew about space warfare. The UES Washington, humanity's largest ship, approached a dead planet roughly the size of Earth's moon. Without any visible weapons deployment, energy readings from the human vessel suddenly spiked to levels that should have been impossible. "Sir," reported his sensor operator, "the human ship is generating a controlled gravity well around the target planet." "That's impossible," General Quarks said. "No civilization has ever weaponized gravitational manipulation." What happened next defied belief. The target planet simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed by conventional weapons, not vaporized by energy beams, but erased from space-time itself through controlled collapse of its molecular structure. "By the ancestors," whispered Ambassador Tillane. "They're manipulating matter at the quantum level." "Admiral," came Harrison's voice over the communication channel, "that was our least destructive offensive capability. We can also manipulate space-time directly, create localized black holes, or phase entire fleets out of normal reality. But we prefer to use our technology for exploration and construction." To demonstrate this point, the human ships proceeded to show their construction capabilities. Using the same quantum manipulation technology, they assembled a functional space station from raw materials in less than 30 minutes. The station immediately began broadcasting on multiple frequencies, offering scientific data and cultural information to anyone willing to receive it. "This is what human technology is designed for," Chin's voice continued. "Creation, exploration, and the betterment of all intelligent life. We've had the power to destroy for centuries, but we've chosen to build instead." Admiral Zektar realized that everything had changed. The Galactic Council faced a choice: adapt to a new reality where they were no longer the dominant force in the galaxy, or risk conflict with a civilization that could erase them from existence without apparent effort. "Admiral Harrison," he said finally, "I believe we need to discuss a new kind of relationship between our civilizations." "I agree," Harrison replied. "But first, let me share something that might help you understand human philosophy." The human admiral transmitted historical records showing Earth's development from a war-torn world to a unified civilization. The records showed centuries of conflict, scientific advancement, and gradual realization that cooperation produced better results than conquest. "We learned that true strength comes from making others stronger," Harrison explained. "A galaxy where every civilization reaches its potential is more valuable than one where a few species dominate many." "And if the Council can't accept this philosophy," asked General Quarks bluntly, "then you'll discover that human patience has limits," Chin replied with quiet steel in her voice. "We came here hoping for friends, but we're prepared to face enemies if necessary." The message was clear: humanity offered partnership, but would not accept subjugation. The choice facing the Galactic Council would determine the future of both civilizations. Admiral Zektar looked around the conference chamber at the faces of his fellow council members. Fear, uncertainty, and calculation warred in their expressions as they grappled with the new reality. Some clearly favored attempting to destroy the human threat before it could grow stronger. Others recognized the futility of such action and the potential benefits of alliance with such an advanced civilization. "We need time to consider this development," he said finally. "The Council will convene to discuss our response to humanity's presence in this region." "Of course," Harrison replied. "But, Admiral, I should mention that several more human fleets are en route to this region. Earth's government has decided that this sector of space holds strategic importance for our people's expansion plans." The implications hung in the air like a physical presence. Humanity wasn't just passing through. They intended to establish a permanent presence in Council space. The balance of galactic power was shifting whether the Council liked it or not. As the human delegation prepared to return to their ships, Captain Chun addressed the assembled alien representatives one final time. "We understand that change is frightening," she said. "But change is also inevitable. Humanity offers the chance to grow stronger together, to explore new frontiers, and achieve things that no single civilization could accomplish alone. We hope you'll choose to stand with us rather than against us." The humans departed, leaving the council representatives to wrestle with the most momentous decision in their civilization's history. The galaxy would never be the same, and the choices made in the coming days would echo through the centuries. 3 weeks after the demonstration of human capabilities, the emergency session of the Galactic Council reached its final day. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the massive assembly chamber on the Council's capital world of Nexus Prime. Admiral Zektar stood before them, preparing to deliver the most important speech of his career. The debate had raged for days. Some species advocated for immediate military action against the human incursion, despite the obvious technological disadvantages. Others pushed for complete capitulation, arguing that resistance was futile against such advanced capabilities. A growing third faction, led by Ambassador Tillane, promoted a radical new approach: genuine partnership with humanity. "Fellow council members," Zektar began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems, "we face a decision that will determine the survival of our civilization. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our own by generations. They could have destroyed us, enslaved us, or simply ignored us. Instead, they offer alliance." Counselor Vrex Th of the Hegemony faction rose to speak. "Admiral, you seem to forget that our civilization has thrived for millennia through strength and unity. Accepting partnership with these newcomers would destroy the very foundation of our society." "Our society was built on technological superiority," Zektar replied. "That foundation no longer exists. We can adapt or face extinction." The chamber erupted in heated discussions as representatives debated in dozens of languages. Through it all, Zektar watched the holographic displays showing real-time reports from the border systems. Human fleets continued to arrive, not in invasion formation, but as exploration and construction groups. They were building infrastructure, establishing research stations, and offering technological assistance to any species willing to cooperate. Meanwhile, aboard the UES Washington, Admiral Harrison reviewed intelligence reports from across the Council's territory. Human diplomatic teams had made contact with individual member species, sharing scientific knowledge and demonstrating the benefits of cooperation. The response had been overwhelmingly positive from younger civilizations, while older, more established powers remained resistant to change. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, "we're seeing increasing fragmentation within the Council. At least 40 member species have requested direct diplomatic relations with Earth, independent of the Council's authority." Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "And the military situation?" "The Council's hardliners are mobilizing their fleets, but they're facing significant resistance from moderate factions. Intelligence suggests that several major species are considering withdrawal from the Council entirely if they choose military confrontation." "Captain Sean," Harrison called to his second-in-command, "what's your assessment of the situation?" Chen studied the tactical displays showing Council fleet movements. "Sir, they're facing the same problem that Earth dealt with during the Unification Wars. Old power structures trying to maintain control in the face of changing realities. Some will adapt, others will fight to the end. And if they choose to fight, then we demonstrate why that's a poor decision," Chen replied grimly. "But I don't think it will come to that. The smart ones know they can't win a military confrontation." Her prediction proved accurate sooner than expected. 3 days later, the Council delivered their formal response to humanity's presence in their territory. Ambassador Tillane appeared on the communication screen, her expression carefully neutral. "Admiral Harrison, Captain Chun, the Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding the human presence in our space." "We're listening," Harrison replied. "The Council has voted to accept humanity as equals in this region of the galaxy. We propose the establishment of joint governance zones where human and Council authority can coexist peacefully." Chen leaned forward. "And the specifics of this arrangement?" "Humanity would be granted full sovereignty over systems you choose to settle, while maintaining free passage rights throughout Council space. In exchange, Earth would share certain technological innovations and provide mutual defense against external threats." Harrison considered this carefully. It was a reasonable offer, one that recognized the new reality while preserving what remained of Council authority. But he suspected there was more to the story. Ambassador, what about the species that opposed this arrangement? Tillane's expression darkened slightly. The hegemony faction has declared independence from the Council. They've withdrawn to their core territories and sworn to resist human expansion by any means necessary. How many ships? Chin asked bluntly. Approximately 300 vessels under the command of war leader Quarks. They've established defensive positions around their homeworld and are demanding that all human forces withdraw from this sector of space. Harrison and Chin exchanged glances. They had hoped to avoid military conflict, but some factions seemed determined to test human resolve. Ambassador, Harrison said finally, we accept the Council's offer of cooperation. As for the hegemony faction, we'll deal with that situation as circumstances require. The formal establishment of human council relations proceeded smoothly over the following weeks. Trade agreements were negotiated, joint research projects initiated, and cultural exchange programs established. For most species, first contact with humanity brought unprecedented opportunities for advancement and growth. But the hegemony remained defiant. War leader Quarks, the former general who had advocated for immediate attack on the human fleet, had convinced several militant species that cooperation with humanity meant the end of their civilizations. They established a military alliance dedicated to driving humans from what they considered council space. The confrontation came 2 months after first contact, when a hegemony patrol attacked a human exploration vessel conducting a peaceful survey mission. The U.S. explorer was damaged but escaped, carrying word of the attack back to Admiral Harrison's fleet. Sir, reported Captain Chun from the explorer's bridge, they came out of nowhere. Cloaked ships using some kind of phase technology we haven't seen before. Our shields held, but barely. Harrison's expression hardened as he reviewed the tactical data. Casualties? None, sir. But they were clearly trying to destroy us. This was no warning shot. Understood. Return to fleet position immediately. Harrison turned to his staff officers. Gentlemen, it appears diplomacy has failed with this particular faction. Prepare the fleet for military operations. The human response was swift and decisive. Within hours, a task force of 30 ships departed for hegemony space. Their mission clear: neutralize the threat permanently. War leader Quarks watched the approaching human fleet from the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Around him, the combined might of the hegemony forces prepared for what they believed would be the defining battle of galactic history. How many ships? He demanded. 30 human vessels, war leader. We outnumber them 10 to 1. Quarks's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Then, today we prove that these invaders are not invincible. All ships, prepare to engage. The battle began as the human fleet approached the outer edge of the hegemony's defensive perimeter. The aliens struck first, launching a coordinated assault with every weapon at their disposal. Plasma cannons fired, missile swarms erupted from launch tubes, and energy weapons discharged in brilliant displays of destructive power. The human response was immediate and devastating. Every attacking vessel simply vanished. Report. Quarks screamed as his sensors tried to make sense of what had happened. War leader, the human ships aren't there anymore. Our weapons struck empty space. That's impossible. But it wasn't impossible. Human ships had phased into a parallel dimension, allowing the alien attacks to pass harmlessly through space they no longer occupied. When they reappeared moments later, they were in optimal firing positions throughout the hegemony formation. What followed couldn't be called a battle. It was a demonstration of technological superiority so complete that resistance became meaningless. Human ships disabled their opponents without destroying them, using targeted gravitational fields to crush weapon systems while leaving life support intact. Within 30 minutes, the entire hegemony fleet was defenseless. War leader Quarks found himself staring at the main screen as Admiral Harrison's image appeared. War leader, Harrison said calmly, your ships are disabled but intact. Your crews are alive and unharmed. This is what human mercy looks like. Why don't you finish us? Quarks demanded, his pride warring with disbelief. Because we don't want to rule through fear, Harrison replied. We want partners, not subjects. But if you force our hand again, the outcome will be different. The hegemony's defeat sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Species that had been considering resistance to human expansion quickly reconsidered their positions. Within months, virtually every civilization in the region had established diplomatic relations with Earth. But the true measure of humanity's impact became clear in the years that followed. Human technology shared freely with allied species led to breakthroughs in medicine, engineering, and space exploration. Worlds that had struggled with scarcity suddenly found abundance. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia were cured. The very nature of galactic society began to transform. Captain Chun, now promoted to admiral and commanding humanity's diplomatic fleet, stood on the bridge of her new flagship as it approached the great space station that served as the joint Human Council Government Center. 5 years after first contact, the galaxy had become something unrecognizable from what it had been. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving docking clearance. Ambassador Tillane will meet us in Conference Chamber 1. Chin nodded as she watched the massive structure grow larger on the view screen. The station itself was a marvel of joint human-alien engineering, incorporating the best technologies from dozens of species into a single magnificent achievement. The meeting with Ambassador Tillane, now serving as the first Director General of the Human Council Alliance, was warm and productive. They discussed expansion into new sectors of the galaxy, joint colonization projects, and the integration of newly contacted civilizations. "Admiral Chun," Tillane said as their formal meeting concluded, "I must ask you something that has puzzled me since our first encounter. Your people could have conquered the galaxy through force. Why did you choose cooperation instead?" Chun smiled as she considered the question. "Ambassador, my species learned something important during our development. Empires built on conquest always fall eventually. But civilizations built on cooperation can last forever. And the hegemony? What became of war leader Quarks?" "He's actually leading one of our most successful integration projects," Chen replied. "It took time, but he eventually realized that we meant what we said about partnership. His tactical expertise has proved invaluable in planning joint defense against external threats." Tillane shook her head in amazement. "Your species continues to surprise us. Most civilizations would have executed their enemies or enslaved them. Most civilizations never learned that former enemies can become the strongest allies," Chen answered. "We prefer to give people the chance to choose cooperation over conflict." As their meeting ended, both leaders looked out through the station's transparent walls at the bustling activity surrounding them. Ships from dozens of species moved in coordinated patterns, carrying goods, passengers, and information throughout the Alliance's territory. Research vessels departed for distant galaxies while colony ships headed toward newly discovered worlds. The transformation had been remarkable. What began as a chance encounter between a human warship and an alien patrol had evolved into the largest peaceful cooperation in galactic history. Trade flourished, technology advanced at unprecedented rates, and conflicts between member species had virtually disappeared. "Admiral," Tillane said as they prepared to part, "there's something my people say. The measure of a civilization is not its power to destroy, but its wisdom to create. Humanity has taught us the truth of those words." Chen nodded acknowledgement. "And your people taught us that diversity makes us stronger. Alone, humans might have conquered, but we could never have built something like this." As Admiral Chun returned to her ship, she reflected on how much had changed since that first contact 5 years ago. Humanity had indeed shocked the galaxy, but not in the way anyone had expected. Instead of demonstrating the power to destroy, they had shown the wisdom to build. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless civilizations yet to be discovered. But now humanity wouldn't face that exploration alone. They had allies, partners, and friends who shared their vision of a future where cooperation triumphed over conquest. The human warship that had first shocked the galaxy with its unexpected arrival had become the symbol of a new age. An age where the greatest victories were achieved not through battle, but through the patient work of building something better than what came before. As the US Defiance departed the station for its next mission, Admiral Chen smiled at the thought that somewhere in the cosmos, other civilizations were about to discover that the universe was much larger, much stranger, and much more hopeful than they had ever imagined. the galaxy would never be the same. And, for the first time in its history, that change promised a future brighter than anyone had dared to dream.